What surprised me was the ability of the Federal Reserve to reinflate and actually keep the Ponzi scheme going. But now what I realized then, and it's even clearer now, is that can only go so far. You can kick the can down the road so much. Eventually, you're going to have to revamp the system.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for July 15th through July 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples at the lowest price in years, at just $65 over spot. Next, we have backdated gold 1/10-ounce eagles at $39 over melt per coin. We also have 2024 1-ounce Silver Britannia at $3.29 over spot. And finally, we're offering Dealer's Choice Constitutional Silver half dollars at $2.50 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. This is your host, Dunagun Kaiser, and my guest today is a returning one from a long-time relationship with Kerry Lutz, the founder of the Financial Survival Network. Kerry, thank you for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Hey, it's always great to get together with you. We should do it more often.
We are meeting once again here in person, as we did last year, at the Rules Symposium on Natural Resources Investing in Boca Raton, Florida. They provided us with this private recording room, so that's going to help us. Otherwise, it's kind of fun being out in the noise of the conference, but it can be a little noisy at times. So we're glad to have your private visit here for our viewers and subscribers. A lot of people might not realize that if they have watched the episode where my son Elijah explained that he got me involved in podcasting, that it was actually you who recognized his contributions early on in podcasting. And I think the quote was something like, "We're going to make you a rock star." And you have a book, Viral Podcasting, that gave you the credentials to be able to say that to him. And you were the co-sponsor of the Liberty Mastermind Symposium, where he was a national speaker at the age of 17 at a conference, which was cool. That was in Dallas. And just thanks for being that, playing that role of an early, I guess, helper and a help up, a leg up to us and our family in getting involved in this, because we have no end of people who come up to us and thank us for what we do. And it was in large part due to the help that we got, the boost that we got getting into it. So thanks for that important start.
Hey, I saw in your son and in you somebody who was destined to do good things, and paying it forward always helps, to help somebody get a leg up. Back then, God, it's like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there weren't so many people doing this, and it was much more complicated and challenging to actually have a presence here. But now anybody with a microphone and a telephone, a smartphone, can be a podcaster and a YouTube star, right?
Yeah, that's it. I'm grateful, frankly, for the democratization that affords. When we get more voices out there, we're bound to get more aspects of perspective. And frankly, it's I don't know, it's caution-inducing for me when we turn on the mainstream media and see not just the same topics, but the same phrases, the same canned words, like they're all reading off the same script. Yeah, and not just talking points, but the exact wording to say, this is what the message is from on high today. It's like, wait a minute, that I would call it the illusion of diversity, where you think you have all these choices, because when people feel that they have no choice, they tend to get protective, defensive, get their hairs on the back of their neck stick out. But when you feel like, oh, I have the freedom of choice, I can choose to watch any one of these 18, there used to be 4 channels, now it's 200 channels. But if they're all saying the same thing, it's an illusion of choice, and it's just to calm you down, to keep you from getting your ire up. And that's why we like to provide an independent voice. So I'm grateful for the independence. And I wanted to show that you mentioned, I wanted to mention, you get us a start. So this is the plaque that YouTube just sent us, Liberty and Finance, for passing 100,000 subscribers. So that was a great thing for us to do. And frankly, I've thanked them before, but I wanted to thank the viewers and the subscribers. And folks, if you're a viewer and not a subscriber, and that's about 50% of our audience, just click the subscribe button and help us get to the next level. But it was you're really like a mentor and a sponsor of my son, Elijah K. Johnson, when he got started at this, that really got us rolling. So thank you.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Like I say, with the younger generation, sometimes you wonder, are they ever going to become serious and become critical thinkers? And to see a kid at 16, 17 years old who is already a critical thinker, questioning the monetary system, questioning the Fed, the policies emanating therefrom. I remember my headline, it was maybe my first or second interview with Elijah. I said, this 16-year-old is smarter than Ben Bernanke, who was then the chair of the Fed. And I stand by that headline.
Well, and frankly, when he was then invited by you to be a speaker at his first national conference, the Liberty Mastermind Symposium in Dallas, when we were checking out of the hotel after the symposium, we were getting to our car. My wife and I were wheeling our luggage across the parking lot, and this elderly gentleman came up to us and he said, Are you the parents of Elijah Johnson? Yes, we are. And he gave us just his heartfelt, grateful notice. He said, seeing someone from the next generation, just as you mentioned, who is open-eyed, who is open-hearted, open-minded, and telling it like it is. He says it gives me so much encouragement about the fate of the next generation. So anyway, I'll put a link in the description of this video, guys, to the big reveal interview that my son Elijah and I did several years ago when we were revealing to the world that we were actually father and son, because nobody knew that up before that, and that I think he mentioned the same thing about you're giving him a start in that interview. So check that out, guys. But Kerry, I wanted to, while we had a chance to have you in for our audience here, your channel is called the Financial Survival Network, and you've been doing this longer than most people. Can you bring us up to date from what got you to start that and what got you to call your channel the Financial Survival Network to where we are today, how you see the challenge having migrated, transformed, or played out maybe in some ways just the way that you thought it might, and what people need to know today based on where we've come from and where you see us heading.
Sure. Well, I had sold my business and I had consulted to some different companies for a little bit. And, I practiced law and really I'd sold out of my partnership and just was looking for something to do. And, I had been listening to podcasts for a while, Gold Seek Radio. Can't remember the other guy's name, but there weren't many people doing this. And, those words that always get you into trouble is, how hard can it be? And I said, how hard can it be to do a podcast? And I started doing some radio and recording the shows and then posting them. And like 10 people would download them. And, it was just, I just kept doing it. I said, I got to get good at it. And finally, I just said, I'm just going to podcast full time. Wasn't really much into the video. I still prefer podcasting, but video is very important, especially for the younger ones who didn't grow up on radio. They grew up on podcasts. So, I just found a course online. This guy, Cliff Ravenscraft, the podcast answer man, took his course. And like in the month, I was getting 10, 20, 30,000 downloads per episode sometimes, or per month. And it went up to hundreds of thousands. And, that was 14 years ago. Nobody was doing this stuff. Now everybody's doing it. It just reminds me of, just because you have freedom of expression, everyone else has freedom whether to pay attention to you or not. And a lot of people do 10 shows and then they give up. And I saw the financial crisis as the fulfillment of the Austrian School of Economics. I don't want to call them prophecies because they weren't predicting the future. They were just stating economic laws that are immutable and the business cycle. And once the financial crisis hit in 08 and 09, I knew that I couldn't go on doing what I was doing, and I didn't want to anymore. I had enough money to not work for the next 10, 15 years. So podcasting stood out, and the rest is history. I don't remember how I came up with Financial Survival Network. The original intent was to get a whole bunch of people in our space together, and we do a website and we would do content. And I came up with the concept because all these people had great websites, but they really didn't have a lot of media presence. This was back in the day when, URLs and websites were a big deal. So they didn't have content. And I remember I connected with John Rubino, and hey, he was well known before from his book, Dollar Collapse, that he wrote with, I can't remember. James Turk, yeah. Right? He wrote it with James Turk. And, we kind of connected, and hey, he started posting my stuff on his site. I posted on mine, and all of a sudden it just blew up. And, for a lot of years, I was just content to do that. Then I started working with mining companies, which has been a great experience. I mean, the entrepreneurial drive is still alive. The thing with mining companies is you have to make sure that they're looking to mine their fortune from the ground and not from Wall Street or Bay Street. But I've met a lot of great people. And one thing I love about this space, Dunagun, is that we're dealing with smart people. There aren't too many dumb people in this business because you can't fake it. You either have economic knowledge or you don't. And if you don't, they're going to sniff you out and know you're an imposter, a fake right away, and nobody's going to pay attention to you. And then you see these people who are flashes in the pan. They go up and then crash. I've seen a few of these, and they've been pumping stocks. They might make millions of dollars on them, but then they get exposed, and then, So Financial Survival Network at the time, a lot of people was like, how are you going to survive this crash? And what surprised me was the ability of the Federal Reserve to reinflate and actually keep the Ponzi scheme going. But now what I realized then, and it's even clearer now, is that can only go so far. You can kick the can down the road so much. Eventually, you're going to have to revamp the system because the law of entropy, human systems become less and less stable over time. Now, we would have had this massive blowout depression already were it not for the internet revolution. I'm thinking now we're going to have something, but I'm thinking that the AI revolution is going to be to the global economy what the internet revolution was in the late 90s. Somehow, those bots, those chatbots, they keep getting better and better by the day. I still write better than a bot. Okay, make no mistakes, but the bot's a lot faster than me. And if I give the bot a lot of direction, it could be 95% of the way there. So my point is, I think that the AI revolution is really somehow it's a game changer that when we look back in 5 years, it'll be obvious. But right now, it's not obvious because all the applications that it's going to lead to aren't there yet. But I'm optimistic. What I'm saying is we're going to have issues. Maybe I don't believe we're going to have a World War III. I think we just like to have these little diversions where a bunch of people get killed and then on to the next one when that one runs its course. I'm not really anticipating World War III, but hey, I wouldn't say it could never happen either. But, the concept of, wealth in the ground is still the real deal, but you can never you can't underestimate the importance of intellectual property because it's our knowledge that makes that wealth in the ground wealth, right? Our knowledge how to get the gold, how to get the platinum,
make it accessible,
right? All that stuff. So, without the IP, intellectual property, none of the wealth in the ground would be worth anything. We'd be slugging it out with clubs and, hunter-gatherers and all that. And so, intellectual property is what makes it all go. But it's not necessarily a substitute for wealth in the ground. It is it's an enabler of it. And so IP in and of itself, hey, if you're starving and you're living on the street, you don't really care about intellectual property. Hey, you're living a nice lifestyle and your patents are rolling in millions of dollars a year like these Silicon Valley guys. Hey, IP is everything in the world to you. Or Hollywood, that's intellectual property, although I would say it's anti-intellectual property. But nonetheless, they have a non-product, a non-tangible product. I mean, I guess a video is tangible, but you can't hold it in your hand, say, I'm worth X. So somehow, I do believe it's going to work out, hopefully for the better. I mean, I hate to think that we go into it like another dark ages. That was always my fear. Like with China taking over, we basically be going into another dark ages, but they're off to the dark ages on their own. They don't even need any help from us. So the world's changed a lot. What we believe to be true, a lot of has been proven categorically false. And maybe your ability to accept that you've been wrong, that your beliefs have been incorrect, is what enables you to keep growing and still be relevant. And that's what I'm worried about for the younger generations is, they've been coddled. It's like participation trophies. I'll never forget. My daughter was a lousy soccer player, and we have the end of the season party at a pizzeria, and the coach has a big box in front of him. So, what's that? Oh, that's the trophies. Oh, okay. So I figured, okay, the top 3 people will get trophies. No, every single person on the team got a trophy, including my daughter, who is probably the worst player on that team. And I'm like, why is she getting a trophy, man? Hey, this isn't right. And then, like all of their sports, they get ribbons, and reminds me of Meet the Fockers, where they got Ben Stiller's ribbons up on the wall for 7th, 8th, and 9th place, and De Niro, who's like he's crazy now, but a great actor. He says, "Oh, you must be so proud of him." And Barbara Streisand says, "Yes, we are so proud of our child." Like that's what bothers me, because I know that all of my successes in life, and I've had a number of them, but they've all come on the heels of failures. They've all been built upon by personal failures, business failures, all of that, and that none of my success could happen without having failed numerous times. It's failing your way to success. And we don't teach how to embrace failure. You shouldn't like to be a failure. My father used to say, he was a professional gambler. He used to say, you show me a good loser and I'll show you an idiot. Like, don't be stupid. Like, oh, I'm so proud of I tried my hardest. No, you screwed up. What'd you do wrong? How do you take those lessons into the future? That's what worries me about the younger generation. But when I see like your son and my children, it gives me hope, because values, it's all about values in the end, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that you got me thinking about, 2 things there. One, to piggyback off what you're just describing, the current generation of incoming experts and future experts in many fields, having come through an environment where there was this artificial subsidy of just being there is all that it took, rather than, no, it took hard work, and it took personal exerting yourself and extending yourself and going to the point, as Steve Jobs said, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. So those aspects. But the other thing that I thought you were going to express concern about, because you put that around the tail of your talk about AI, is maybe more than any generation in the history of the world, they're going to be faced with this idea of obsolescence of in our generation and our parents' generation, there were many, many, many manual professions that were replaced by automation in factories and manufacturing. Then there was, there's always knowledge workers. There's always going to be knowledge workers. And it's like, well, now that's being automated. Doctors, lawyers, all kinds of things, where you can have an apparently infinite body of reference that more than any one human could have in between their ears, accessible at everyone's fingertips. It raises the question of what roles are going to be relevant and able for people to contribute. And that, I think, maybe brings us back full circle to when you talked about real things like mining companies that actually have real wealth in the ground. Is that saying that's been said about our modern world is that no matter what narrative you come out with about green revolution or whatever, that everything has to either be mined or grown. So if you're against mining and you're against growing things, then you are disconnected from the reality of where things come from. So in the real world, maybe not in the virtual world, and there's a lot of people that seem to think that they can just hang out in the virtual world, and that takes us into a whole nother topic of transhumanism and all that. But just to say that it's interesting to hear that your concerns about our economic future for the next generation have evolved over time as you see the world moving on. I won't necessarily say forward, but on into new topics. Some of those new topics are rather frightening in terms of we've seen the last 4 years, the whole world shut down because of some dabbling in the ability to manipulate nature to make it more dangerous than, and now they're saying, oh, they're going to get even better at it, 10 times better the next time around. So there's reason for sober concern about this unbridled, launching into what can we do, as they say from Jurassic Park, rather than what ought we to do. But it's interesting, and I wanted to also circle back to one more thing you said way back in the beginning. The word network in Financial Survival Network is that in the Liberty Mastermind Symposia that you co-hosted, you did bring together a network of dozens of people who were thought leaders and outspoken voices in this arena when there were fewer. But you clearly were a person who wanted to have a mission of getting people to collaborate, getting them to compare and contrast their messages and their voices so that we could all make better informed decisions. And I see that that's still something you're concerned about, is making sure that people are making well-informed decisions in their lives for the betterment of their families. And if people want to follow your ongoing work, where should they get connected?
That's easy. FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I got another site called inflation.cafe, where we just focus in on inflation, because that is the net result of all the governmental manipulation and manipulation with the money supply and all.
Well, we've been speaking with Kerry Lutz, the founder of Financial Survival Network. Kerry, thanks again for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Honored to be here with you, Dunagun.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for July 15th through July 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples at the lowest price in years, at just $65 over spot. Next, we have backdated gold 1/10-ounce eagles at $39 over melt per coin. We also have 2024 1-ounce Silver Britannia at $3.29 over spot. And finally, we're offering Dealer's Choice Constitutional Silver half dollars at $2.50 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.